Good morning. Welcome to our virtual breakfast with the CEO here at the Peoria Riverfront Museum. I'm Anne Marie Miller, Vice President of Development for the museum. I'm here today with our President and CEO, John Morris, and we are very excited to welcome all of our members and Visionary Society members and all of our supporters here throughout the region. I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone for staying with us this last year. Our members have been amazing and so supportive as we had to close our building for 216 days last year, but the museum was certainly not closed. We were working very hard behind the scenes here at both on site and at home. Hope you enjoyed all of our digital programming we had going on throughout the year. And I'm excited to introduce John Morris, and he's going to tell you a lot more about what's been going on at the museum.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for supporting the Peoria Riverfront Museum, this incredible institution, the only one of its kind in the country. A museum of art, science, history, and achievement, a multidisciplinary museum unlike any other, and a community of people seeking to inspire each other and be inspired by each other. That's what defines this museum as special, I think, in all the country. The other thing that defines this museum is that we have the greatest leadership, volunteers, members, donors, visitors of any museum. And the most time spent, the most money given, the most enthusiastic champions are those on the board of directors at the Peoria Riverfront Museum. And in a moment here, we'll have a discussion with Steve Jackson, who is the chairman of the board. But let me just show you a quick slide of what the board looks like here. We've got 21 terrific members, a couple of unfilled seats right now as the nominating committee works to fill those seats. But Steve Jackson, our board chair, and just tremendous group of leaders in the community. A word about Steve, and we'll see in this next slide, Steve Jackson with Preston Jackson, the two Jacksons. We're sitting here in front of Preston Jackson's unbelievable Brownsville to Harlem, a gift to the museum that has just been announced on March 6th. This was Steve, frequently comes to the museum for various reasons, but Steve Jackson, the chairman of our board, looking over Preston Jackson's, some of his painted bronze figures out of the hundreds that are in this incredible installation. Steve Jackson is the owner and president, chairman, and chief everything at Prairie Home Alliance, his conglomerate of companies based in East Peoria and doing business throughout the region. And he and his company are generous supporters of the museum. We welcome Steve Jackson, the chair of the board of directors of Peoria Riverfront Museum, with us this morning. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, John. Thanks. I'm glad to be here this morning.
Well, what is it like to be the chairman of the board of the Peoria Riverfront Museum? What is your...
It's a pretty easy job, and that's good because I probably wouldn't be capable if it was difficult. It's easy because you just saw a slide of the board members. It's the most active, engaged board that I've worked on anywhere. Lots of boards do good things, have good people. This particular board is a working board, and there are lots of different committees underneath the board level, and just a bunch of good work turned out by a bunch of good people.
Yeah, we appreciate your leadership and the leadership of the whole board. One of the things you do as chairman of the board is help lead the efforts for what we call the leading members of the Peoria Riverfront Museum, the Visionary Society. And I just celebrated a couple of weeks ago my 4 years on the job here, and it's incredible. But with your help and your leadership and the board's leadership, in that time we have taken the Visionary Society from 99 members to 326, and you keep pushing and growing. Visionary Society members give $1,000 or more a year. What's in store for the Visionary Society this spring?
So every spring, Anne Marie kind of leads a charge on a special fundraising campaign to support the museum. It's done by way of the Visionary Society, and we are always trying to increase the numbers of the Visionary Society. This year, kind of a collective work, come up with a +1 campaign. That's become a very familiar term to anybody that's attending a party anywhere. There is always a +1 availability So this Plus One campaign is about adding members to our current 326 members through this Plus One theme. So 3 ways to do that. One would be to pick out your Plus One and encourage that person to join the Visionary Society. The second way would be perhaps to sponsor someone. That may sound a little bit silly, you know, who's going to pay for somebody else to be in it. But just as an example, within our own family, Maggie and I have thought about doing those things for our children as Christmas gifts because they have enough sweaters and socks, and this is a great cause. So in my opinion, as children, your neighbors, your friends become members, there's certainly a synergistic effect, both in things the museum can do, but what it's come to mean to this community. So that's the second way. You could sponsor somebody to be a member. And the third way would be simply to identify someone that you think would have the means and the interest in becoming a member, and turn that information over to the museum, to Anne Marie or to John, and we'll go to work trying to recruit that person.
Well, it's a fun way of expanding the support. The most important donor to the museum collectively is the Visionary Society. Finally, Mr. Chairman, you and Todd Baker, our vice chairman, and Brian Ray, our treasurer, Lisa Gates, our secretary, our great executive committee, and so many others on the board pay close attention to how the museum is doing, fiscally speaking, financially speaking, and we are rounding the corner now to begin our ninth year, on our way into our 10th year and coming October. How, through the pandemic, how's the museum doing?
Let me ramble here just for a minute. Overall, the Healthy Museum is excellent. We've made our way through the pandemic, and I want to pay particular attention to 2 particular reasons that that's true. John talks often about his staff. He talks a lot about his board and generally uses superlatives. And I'm never quite sure about that. Well, in fact, I am very sure when he's talking about me, it's probably overdone. But when he's talking about his staff at the museum, I've witnessed it firsthand. And I can tell you, as good as the board is, the staff is so much better than that. Their dedication, their knowledge, their creativity, and their work effort have made all the difference through this pandemic. That's one piece of it. That's how we've gotten through up to this point. The other piece is what I just spoke of earlier, and that's the donors in the Visionary Society. We have so much to be grateful for, that this wonderful museum is sitting in the Peoria area, right here on the riverfront, because I don't know if this is true, but I've been a lot of places, and I would think per capita, Peoria has to be one of the most philanthropic groups that I've ever been exposed to. And the generosity of those that support the museum have gotten us through up to this point. I would like to mention this, and it ties back to what I said earlier. Our earned revenue, total revenue, is down about $700,000. That's a big number for this museum, and represents a pretty good chunk of the overall budget. Because of the great work of the staff, they have managed expenses to where we're not going to take a $700,000 hit. Their dedication to manage those expenses has helped tremendously. But this cause of expanding the Visionary Society and bringing more people into the museum, it's the reason it's so important. You know, we've been closed. The doors have been shut, and people have been working every day here to take the museum into your home, just as is happening this morning. But you don't get gate admissions when you do that. Memberships are way off. So I'd like to ask you again, pay particular attention to growing that Visionary Society. We are poised to do great things here, and I know other people will talk about it, so I won't. But the exhibit that's coming, the T-Rex exhibit, so exciting to get the doors open, to get people through those doors. I believe you're going to like what you see here. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And you spoke about the earned revenue being down, and thank goodness the charitable revenue is significantly up. So we're probably having one of the strongest years, maybe the strongest. We'll have to wait to June 30 to find out, but it's a time of ironic strength for the Peoria Riverfront Museum.
It speaks to the quality of our community. I mean, it really
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, well, thank you for everything you do. Thanks for joining us this morning
My
for
pleasure.
virtual breakfast.
I couldn't leave without talking about, again, all the effort from the staff, but I did notice no one cooked this morning. Somewhat disappointing. I noticed my coffee cup is somewhat virtual, too. There's no coffee in that. So
Yeah, well,
we take the virtual term way too far.
We do.
So,
Although Anne Marie, Mr. Chairman, has arranged for a very special surprise at the end for those who stay with us that will fill up the coffee cup.
Excellent.
So, thank you.
John.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, that's Steve Jackson, Chairman of the Board and Chairman and owner of Prairie Home Alliance. We appreciate his leadership. But let's move on with Breakfast with the CEO for some more updates. Thank you all for joining us. If you've just tuned in to the live stream, we're here in the Owens Gallery, named for Katie and Jim Owens, at the Peoria Riverfront Museum, a newly remodeled gallery, and we're sitting in front of Preston Jackson's incredible Brownsville to Harlem, An American Story, which was dedicated March 6th, just a few weeks back. So with me this morning are 4 curators of the Peoria Riverfront Museum, and these are superstars, and we start with our lead curator, Bill Congerbill. Thanks for being here for virtual breakfast with the CEO. Bill and I came 4 years ago. Bill came 3.5 years ago, but we've kind of grown up together here at this institution. And Bill is a tremendous leader for a curatorial team and for the entire region. So this morning, Bill, I thought it would be fun. We cannot talk about everything. There's too much to talk about. I thought it would be fun, though, to look at a few of the special projects that are going on. And let's start with the biggest of all of them and tell us what's about to happen with this.
Wow. Well, thank you for having us this morning, John. And what we have coming up in May 29th, we will open the largest dinosaur exhibition that Peoria Riverfront Museum has ever seen, with the most important, the meanest, the ugliest dinosaur ever, the T-Rex. And this exhibition comes from the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. As you know, you and I took a trip to New York City, and John promptly asked them what they were doing with this exhibition after they were finished with it. Guess what? It comes to Peoria first, and we're so excited for this. Multiple scale creatures in this, and if you ever
Are we going to
thought,
see, I have to ask,
yes.
we're seeing the full-size T-Rex several ways. We'll see the skeleton, we'll see the current renderings of what scientists from the American Museum of Natural History believe it to look like, but we also see something I've never really even thought about, which is juvenile T-Rexes.
Juvenile T-Rexes and the ancestors of the T-Rex. So we think of the T-Rex as kind of an animal, a creature that maybe is one of the oldest, actually not. And so we get to see how the T-Rex evolved and from where the family that the T-Rex came from.
Very cool.
Fascinating.
Very cool. Well, let's go back to that slide real quick and just take a look, if everybody can see that right now. Those we'll be talking to today, Bill Conger, Lottie Fittis, Curator of History and Registrar, Curator of Science, and Planetarium Director Renee Kerrigan, and Zach Zetterberg.
It's the A-team there.
Curator of Art and Center for American Decoys. It is the A-team. So, well, next slide, let's take a look at Brownsville to Harlem. Let's talk about what we're sitting in front of. Why is this so significant?
A 25-year project by local artist and actually contemporary phenom, Preston Jackson, really celebrates America in Brownsville to Harlem. And it takes place, metaphorically, in the early 20th century up into the mid-20th century, and explores the Harlem Renaissance, which is this explosion of talent, intellect, creativity, that happened in many of the northern cities in North America as a result of the black migration from the South. It's an incredible story. It is interpreted through the eyes and hands of Preston. And within the installation, we have elements of not only Brownsville and Chicago, Harlem and New York, but we have Kansas City, we have Peoria, Illinois, we have Decatur, Illinois.
We can see Ward Chapel, the first
Ward Chapel, the
Black
Murray Baker
congregation here in
Bridge.
Peoria. It's
Yes.
a historic church, and really amazing. Let's flip through a few of the slides that show us a little up close of their, and one more forward. There is Preston Jackson's father and his twin sister, and Preston to our left. The only place he appears in the exhibition is as an infant in the arms of his father, who was a minister. So amazing. Forward a couple of more here to take a look. What is Preston? How so many vehicles in this exhibition? We'll see another. I think the next slide is another one. And
well, it is a it's about transience, really. It's about migration and moving, and the automobile, of course, is a significant metaphor for that, and really a work of art that was and still is coveted by people, and it makes a lot of sense to include so many of these incredible
really does. Let's take a look at a couple more of these, and then we'll move to the next topic. Amazing, and there's really a great scene because children are drawn into this piece like nothing I've seen. It's an immersive piece of art. So come see Brownsville to Harlem if you haven't. Let's go to the next slide and listen in. If hopefully the audience will be able to listen as we do, because that's a video. So go to the next slide and we'll talk about what this is in a minute. So that was just a little clip of this piece, but let's talk about what is in this new gallery and our partnership with Art Bridges, Alice Walton's philanthropy. And
this is an exhibition of 3 artists. It's a small exhibition in the amount of work, but a really large exhibition in tone and scale. And what we have here is this work of sculpture by Terry Adkins, African-American, now departed from us, sculptor who worked with music and integrated that with art and created sculpture. And this sculpture, every 8 to 12 minutes, surprises you in the exhibition. It just kind of comes alive, starts tinging away. And you're forced to reckon with this piece in the middle of the room. Behind them is a massive 18-foot long canvas by Los Angeles-based African-American artist Mark Bradford. These works are courtesy of Art Bridges and Crystal Bridges in Bentonville, Arkansas.
yeah, just a quick word about this. Art Bridges in Bentonville is the foundation of Alice Walton, the daughter of Walmart founder Sam Walton and the wealthiest woman in the United States, and a huge philanthropic force in American art. The Peoria Riverfront Museum in the last year and a half has formed a strategic relationship with Art Bridges, as well as the museum in Bentonville, Crystal Bridges, from which we have drawn for some of our current exhibitions. Let's go quickly to the next couple of slides and just tell us what this is. We're sitting here in the Owens Gallery and facing this, but this is really an important breakthrough moment.
It is. In 101 Treasures, we have a number of instances where we feature permanent collection items that were accessioned, believe it or not, in 2021, this year, and this is one of those. Friend of the museum, Jerry Milam and his wife Mary Ann Milam found themselves in 1962 in a little office space above Arthur Murray Dance Studios on Lower Main Street. They were asked to be there and photograph a young comedian. Turns out to be the most important comedian to walk the planet. And this is taken just prior to him leaving Peoria, Illinois, when he would never return here to live. He would return to visit his family often. But these are moments of a young 21 Richard Pryor.
These are the first photographic images taken of Richard Pryor, who would go on, of course, to be, as you have spelled out, innovative, controversial, certainly, but a game changer, and all of comedy sort of post-Pryor has changed. That raw sort of tapping into his own personal life experiences and the discussion of race out on the table and race relations in the country. Nobody had done it like Pryor ever before, and he's probably the most famous person from Peoria.
Absolutely.
So, this is really a breakthrough for us. It's a national find, the first photos of Richard Pryor. Let's go to the next slide and see what we got next. I think this is the final one, Bill, of so many things we could talk about, but tell us what we're looking at and why this is really important to the Peoria Riverfront Museum.
Wow. Well, certainly the most prominent contemporary artist to live in our region. He's lived here 40 years. Is also somewhat of a recluse, John. His name's Nicholas Africano. The Peoria Riverfront Museum has a Nicholas Africano in their collection. It was accessioned in 1987. It's the painting in this image just to the back. We reached out to Nicholas to see if he would be interested in kind of fleshing out this exhibition with his current work. That's a 30-year-old painting. He now works in glass. These figures are completely...
This is cast glass?
Yes.
Which is just incredible to see.
With techniques that only Nicholas and his technician, Melanie Hunter, use, and they devise themselves. And these are absolutely just spectacular and hypnotic works of
to see this in person and to see some of the others that are on display is really special. So, Bill, thank you. You know, there is one more. There is a surprise object
I like
in here.
surprises.
And it is an object not yet on display at the Peoria Riverfront Museum, but Bill and his team get calls all the time from people who have objects that people believe are of interest to the museum. We cannot take them all, but if you have an object you think is of historic or artistic, scientific importance or connected to the achievement of somebody in the area, the person we're looking at, or the portrait of the person we're looking at, is Henri de Tonti, really the Italian-French explorer who's responsible for the foundation of Peoria, Illinois, as a European settlement. And there are no artifacts in our collection or that we know of in the region or really anywhere connected directly to Tonti. However, let's go to the next slide. Bill received a call in about 3 weeks ago, and from the gentleman on the left here, and Bill's in the middle, and then you see the famous artist Lonnie Stewart, who spent decades researching Tonti, sculpting him, quasi-obsessed with the story of Tonti and the importance of him in the region, holding in their hands. Tell us what we're seeing.
This is a Michelette, and it is a kind of an early version of a shotgun. It would shoot these mini cannonballs, really, and we're not sure exactly the use of this gun, whether it was Tonti's personal private weapon,
but
or
it has
if
his
it
name,
has his name on it. We are
object.
convinced that there is a relationship to him with this gun, whether it was a trade item or his personal item. We're investigating right now. This is an incredible. I can't overstate how incredible it is to have an object directly connected.
We are working on authenticating, but we have reason to believe the provenance or the background of who owned this object is very solid. These are some of the major collectors in the country. We did not really know about this object, been sort of out of view for a long time until this gentleman contacted us. So we may be displaying in the coming months the first object connected with the founder of Peoria, essentially, Henri de Tonti. So, Bill Conger, thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
We're going to take a minute here and transition into somebody else on the team, and that is Lottie Fittis, our Curator of History and our Registrar. The Registrar of the museum is somebody who keeps track of all the objects that we have in our permanent collection, and we do so according to the standards of the American Alliance of Museums and so forth. And Lottie Fittis is a first-rate professional, and we're happy to have her on the curatorial team. Lottie, welcome this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
The virtual breakfast, as Steve Jackson pointed out, without
It's a good virtual
coffee
breakfast.
at this point.
Yeah,
But,
it's good.
there are a couple of objects I wanted to throw out in front of you, and I think actually some of the order may be a little jumbled, and with apologies, but maybe if we could back up a couple to that flag. Yes, right there. This, I just want to throw a few of these out. These are on display right now, these objects that we'll be talking about. Tell us about this flag and why it's really pretty cool.
Yeah, so we have a couple things in our permanent collection related to President Abraham Lincoln and his family, this being one of them. This was a flag that someone likely held during his funeral procession in Springfield. Just this week, his funeral train would have departed Washington, D.C. for the first ever presidential funeral train procession through the United States. And when he arrived in Springfield, Illinois on May 3rd, there were thousands and thousands of people there to commemorate and mourn the loss of the president. And this would have been one of the objects that
Connected with that.
Yeah, connected with that historic moment.
Historic moment. A really amazing storytelling item. Objects tell stories. Stories inspire people. Let's click through back to the mask. There's young Richard Pryor. We spoke of him earlier, and the slide sort of ended up here, but that's fine. It was good to see him again. This is maybe the creepiest object in the entire Peoria Riverfront Museum out of 15,000 objects. But what are we looking at?
So this is John Dillinger, and it is a death mask. There were a couple death masks that were made after he was shot in the summer of 1934.
And he was a notorious criminal.
Yes, he was a
US
notorious bank robber, gangster of the 1930s, and he was killed in Chicago in July of 1934. And this college, Worsham College of Embalming, was called in, and they were going to do this death mask. Well, the police sergeant at the time didn't approve of this, and so they scooted him out. But before they completely got out and visitors came in at the time, because during that time the public could come in and view bodies, Marjorie McDougal snuck a face mask out. That's actually the donor of the mask to us. And later on in her life, she received this plaster casting of it. So it's a really unique, fun, interesting piece of history, not only as it relates to John Dillinger, but, you know, the history of death masks and life masks.
Death mask and life mask. And we've also recently acquired a life mask of Abraham Lincoln's as well. So next slide, let's take a look at this one. Let's see. David Steve, our esteemed director for this live program this morning, may have it, but is there a slide forward of Annie Malone that we could take a look at? Right there. Let's start with Annie and then go backwards. Very nice. Annie Malone. Now, many people watching may not know her name yet, but tell us who she is and why she is so important to Peoria and our museum.
Sure. So Annie Minerva Turnbow Malone was a Peoria resident when she was in high school, but her sister Ada Turnbow Moody, lived here in Peoria. That's who Annie came to spend her time with. While here, Annie attended Peoria High. She got interested in chemistry. She was very close with her family, spent time with her Aunt Hattie in Eureka, who was an herbalist. All of this comes together, and Annie creates the first cosmetology school dedicated to African American hair care, and her goal was to lift up the African American community. She provided jobs through Poro College, and
We've got a slide at Poro College.
Yeah.
We'll show that here. Right there.
Yes,
That's-
so that was located in St. Louis, but Annie was really also, she was a lifelong resident of Illinois as well. She lived in Metropolis, Brooklyn, Chicago. She's buried in Chicago. So,
And
yeah.
she would go on to be very wealthy.
Yes, she was the first female African-American millionaire through her...
Through the business,
Through the
hair care
business,
products
yeah.
business,
Yeah.
And inspired Madam C.J. Walker,
She
who
did.
was a student of hers, right?
Correct. Yeah. Madam C.J. Walker was what they called a Poro agent. Madam C.J. Walker, at that time, her name was Sarah Breedlove, but she would eventually go to Colorado. The history gets a little murky if she started her own business or took some of the guidance that she got through Annie Malone's Poro College, but unfortunately, Madam C.J. Walker's history kind of overshadowed Annie's. But Annie she's coming
Annie's
back.
Ours. Annie's connected
Yes,
to Peoria.
yeah,
So
she's
come
coming
see
back.
this exhibition Lottie's been working on. The other, and we'll just quickly take a look at this and move forward. Right there is
Mm-hmm.
Annie Malone's briefcase. This is Akbara Bryson,
Yes.
James Akbara Bryson, who is a relative of Annie
Descendant,
Malone's.
yes.
Descendant of Annie Malone's. On loan from him, and he's been instrumental in helping consult with you. And you've really reached out to all the Annie Malone historic sites and
Yes.
really consulted well with all of those. So this is a relic of Annie Malone.
It is. You can
business
see her
career.
initials, Annie Minerva Malone, AMM, on the briefcase, and you can just kind of imagine her carrying this around while she was doing her business. She was an incredible entrepreneurial spirit and
a philanthropist.
Yes.
And a giving person.
She
She
gave
didn't just make
so
a lot
much
of
money.
She
gave away so
voluntarily
much.
to support a lot of the causes. So, all right, let's skip forward to what I mentioned earlier right there. Now, we talked about a death mask. Let's talk about a life mask. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so this is the second life mask of Abraham Lincoln. He actually had two done during his lifetime. This was done, I believe, about 3 months before he passed away, so 1865. And this is a second generation replica of the Clark Mills life mask. We are incredibly lucky to have this. The Library of Congress has one of these. You just can really show.
Lincoln Library, I think, has
Yes.
received one. This is courtesy of a connection with Tom and Judy Gross of Washington, Illinois. Dr. Tom Gross, a history buff, both of the Judy
Yes.
and Tom history buffs,
And-
connected us with the estate of a donor.
Of Richard Schoen, yeah, their dear friend Richard Schoen. He was a avid Lincoln memorabilia collector, and we were just so incredibly lucky that they thought of us, and we were really excited to receive this donation of several items related to Lincoln. So
Well, this is a really important, very special to be able to kind of look into the face of Lincoln in this way. So let's go to the this picture, which I snapped in the galleries of this young lady who happens to have been here with her family, and also my wife Cindy's and my niece, who loves horses. And I just was walking around the galleries and noticed she just stopped there and just stared and stared. What is she looking at, Lottie?
Sure. So this is, we call this horse affectionately Woody. I think our curator of folk art, he'll be able to tell a little bit more of the history on it, but it is from 1886. It is a model for a harness company. And we acquired this through the Midwest Agricultural Museum, who were just these incredible, generous people who they started this institution, their institution, and they collected these wonderful, wonderful objects related to Midwestern agriculture. And this was part of the 25 object donation that we received earlier this year.
Yeah, Paul McKim and the chairman of that board worked with us and created an endowment fund to support the objects they gave. This is one of the really fun objects, a hand-carved folk art horse mannequin.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
well,
Beautifully carved.
really beautifully carved. And come and see this if you haven't yet. You can even the veins in the horse's face are visible. So I stand in awe as little Elliot here does as well. So, well, Lottie, I think, David, is that the final object in history? Lottie Fittis, thank you. Keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work. And if you ever have questions or comments, reach out to Lottie. She loves hearing about local history, but particularly we concentrate on local history that is connected to national or international importance. There are great local historical societies all over the central Illinois region. Here in Peoria, the Peoria Historical Society, and every community has some form of a historical society. Please support those organizations. They do a great job of telling the local history. Here at the museum, we work in partnership with them to bring out objects that tell stories in the context of national or international importance as well. So we have with us now Zach Zetterberg. Zach is Curator of Art and the Center for American Decoys, as well as our chief preparator here. A preparator in museum terms is one that works with the curators to line things up. Where do things go in the galleries? How do they look, and how do they actually hung on the wall? So Zach has been very busy as we are in the process of remodeling our fifth and final of all 5 galleries here at the Peoria Riverfront Museum in the last year during the pandemic. It's really a remarkable thing. The slide, Zach, welcome.
Thanks, John.
Glad
Good morning, everyone.
And is the slide up, David? Can they see this? All right. So what we are looking at a crazy picture I took walking into the museum one morning, or maybe afternoon, cloudy day. There's so many waterfowl in the Illinois River Valley. It's incredible. Here at the museum, we're right at the river. We see them by the hundreds or thousands come through. This gives us a special purpose, if you will, as it pertains to caring for the works of art that were inspired by these. Let's go to the next slide and take a look. There you are, Zach. So what do we have going on that has happened to create this new center? Tell us about the Center for American Decoys. What is it, and what are we looking at here?
Absolutely. Well, as you can see from the previous image, we host an incredible amount of waterfowl here in central Illinois, and that history goes back hundreds of years. And due to that abundance of waterfowl and the environment that we have here, we became a center of some of the greatest waterfowl hunting that ever existed. And with that came decoys. And some of the greatest decoys that were ever produced in this country and are collected today were made right here in central Illinois. And this standing goose on one leg is a gem. It's one of the greatest decoys that was ever made in Peoria. And
so this is by a Peoria carver.
Yeah, this was made by Charles Shanehider Sr., who is regarded as one of the top 5 carvers in history.
Wow. This is on loan, as are so many of the decoys in this exhibit, from Thomas K. Figge, originally from the Quad Cities in Davenport, Iowa. And there's Tom right there. So Tom has been very generous in lending a significant number of his objects, and then Zach, you have pulled from other donors as well as our own. We have a permanent collection of decoys. So, but tell us about the relationship with Tom and these decoys in particular.
Absolutely. The relationship with Tom has been great, and it started with a large decoy show that we put together almost 2 years ago called American Decoy: The Invention, and we made a publication with that exhibition, and it grew from there, and that's how we came up with the concept of the Center for American Decoys. And Tom was super excited, as well as our members of my advisory council, Randy Root, Joe and Donna Tonelli.
The best of the best.
Yeah, the best of the best. And
the support, I mean, you've had so many people step before, Will Williams at DVI and so many others who have put financial backing or expertise or loans of these beautiful objects of folk art. These were self-taught artists that just carved well beyond what they needed to attract the birds for hunting, right?
Absolutely.
So, how about these two? Why this picture? You're standing here with Tom.
Well, like the Shane Hyder goose, these two were made right here in Peoria by legendary carver Burt Graves. They would have been sold at Portman's Sporting Goods store on Main Street, where the Caterpillar Administration building is now. And it's just they're great pieces of American folk art, but they are connected to Peoria in a really special way. And Tom recently gifted these decoys to the Center for American Decoys in the museum's permanent collection.
Beautiful, beautiful. And at the museum, we like to concentrate on the history and the aesthetic, the beauty of the objects and so forth. But objects like these don't come free. They are very, very sought after and expensive on the market. And we have raised $1.1 million toward the Center for American Decoys in the last 2 years, or year and a half, really. And a number of donors have stepped forward. One of those was Christine Bonatti Bullwinkle here, photographed standing by a number of objects that were once her late husband, Ron Bonatti's. And she made a gift to establish the Ron Bonatti Fund to support the Center for American Decoys. But tell us about the importance of the support that we've gotten, Zach, and where that's going. What are we doing with it in terms of galleries and so forth?
Absolutely. Well, the support for the Center for American Decoys has helped us renovate what was the first of now 5 major renovations within the gallery, and that began in the Oberhelman River Gallery, and that is where the Center for American Decoys is located here in the museum. And if you can see behind Chris, there is a picture of a shanty on Rice Pond, and that's a really important image because that was where Ron Bonatti, the property where Ron Bonatti hunted all of his life. And like many of the people that are in this community that are involved with waterfowl, this place is very special, has a history of hunting that we just can't disregard, and it's really a great niche for us. And
it is a niche for us, and I think that across the whole country and the world, we are now starting to get inquiries about our expertise, Zach's, our whole team, our collection, the people we've surrounded ourselves with. From, you mentioned Rice Pond, which is actually former Caterpillar chairman Doug Oberhelman owns that club now. So it's and we're in the Diana Doug Oberhelman gallery in this picture, and Ron Bonatti's fund, and the Taylor French Decoy Fund established by Bon and Holly French with that $1 million gift we announced last year. So get ready for more big things to come from the Center for American Decoys.
Absolutely.
But any other thoughts, Zach?
I just thank everybody for the support, and like John says, there's more to do, so stay tuned.
We will be known across the world for this Center for American Decoys, mark my words. So, well, finally, in terms of curatorial presentations, I want to say I believe we have one of the greatest planetariums there is. Certainly, our science educators and our planetarium educators are terrific. The director of the planetarium, who's also the curator of science here, is Renee Kerrigan. Renee, a year and a half ago now, curated an exhibition called Moon on the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 lunar landing. It became a surprise, super popular hit. We acquired some new things for the collection at that time and wanted to have Renee be our final visit this morning with our curatorial staff. So good morning, Renee Kerrigan.
Good morning, John.
So we're looking at the slide of the Dome Planetarium with the beautiful sky. That's where your office is and where you hang out and do live shows. If you've never seen Renee Kerrigan do a live show on the 40-foot Dome Planetarium, it's incredible, but it's about to get better. Before we get to talking about how much better, I want to look at a couple of slides with Renee. So one of the biggest cosmic events of the last few years, I think, happened on December 21, is that right?
Yes, it was on this winter solstice, December 21st.
The same day, winter solstice. And tell us what happened in these. We're going to look at a few pictures here. We're looking now at what? Those two dots in the sky are what?
That's the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn that you're seeing. And this was an event that does not happen often. The two planets got so close together in how they appeared in our sky that to some viewers it appeared as just one object in the sky. And this was an event that caught the popular imagination. It was all over the news. People were calling it the Christmas star and all sorts of things. I love it when things like that happen, when events in astronomy catch the popular imagination, because it gives us so much of a chance to teach people about what's going on, to hopefully get people curious about the planets and exploration. So this is actually a view from our telescope. We were able to set up a really low-tech telescope, 8-inch Dobsonian telescope. It didn't have tracking. It didn't have any sort of computerized mount or anything like that. It was just a point and shoot sort of telescope. And we set up a cell phone on it and live streamed the view on our Facebook page. And we happened to have clear skies here in Peoria. We were lucky. It was right outside the museum on Water Street, or on Washington Street side, that we were doing this. And we ended up having about 1,000 concurrent viewers for the entire hour that we were live streaming. And I think that that video on Facebook now has had 88,000 views. So it just was wonderful to be able to share the event with so many people, and people from Central Illinois, but really all over the country, and even international viewers as well. So it was a super fun night. Myself and my coworker Nick Ray.
Nick Ray, who's really a superstar, pun intended. Let me say that what's remarkable about the timing of this and so many other things that has happened this past year is that the museum was closed. The pandemic had closed us, and we were closed 216 days of the last year, and yet staff kept working, found creative ways to go virtual. So this is part of our virtual museum content, and in a single night, Renee and Nick had 88,000 views, 1,000 concurrent. They kept coming in and checking it out and coming, but that's more than all of the folks who visit personally in the 50,000 visitors a year in the planetarium in a single hour with Renee and Nick, because we have done so much virtually. This is a great example of how it works. They're just at some point in the evening, we screenshotted with 62,000 views already that evening while it was happening. So anyway, it's a phenomenal, if you haven't seen Renee's What's Up series, it's phenomenal. You can subscribe to the Planetarium What's Up email. So let's move forward if we can. Is that the final slide for Renee? Okay. Renee, let's now talk about what is about to happen in the planetarium and why everybody in all of the region should be super excited about it.
We are getting a digital upgrade to our planetarium projectors. So people who know and love the planetarium will know that we have a optomechanical star ball, which makes our precision stars, and we're keeping that. But we also have digital projectors that are what allow us to fly through the universe and to show the constellation images and to really display almost anything on our 40-foot dome. And those projectors are older than this museum itself. We actually installed them at Lakeview Museum and moved them down here to the Peoria Riverfront Museum. They're definitely due for an upgrade. We've just sort of been stringing them together for years. And so we are very grateful and excited that we are able to replace them. We'll have a 6.5K system, so much, much higher resolution than our current 2K system, and also much brighter. And a brand new powerful software that will allow us to continue doing our flights through the solar system and to the edge of the universe and back, but also doing other real-time big data information that we'll be able to share with people. For example, we'll be able to share information about where there are earthquakes happening all over the world, or information about the weather patterns happening on a global scale, maybe even showing some public health data. So we're excited about the new capabilities of this software, and definitely excited about the better experience, the bigger experience we'll be able to share people with an updated planetarium system.
Well said. It is going to be the most incredible technological upgrade. It's a $700,000 investment. Jim Beard and the chair of the Planetarium Advisory Council, our board of directors, the state of Illinois through IDNR, a capital grant, and many others have really contributed generously to help us to upgrade this system. And I think we're about to blow some people away in terms of the quality of that 40-foot dome experience. So
When you come see T-Rex this summer, you'll be able to check out our brand new planetarium as well.
it's amazing. Renee is working very hard to get that ready in time for T-Rex. So this summer, we're not only going to have the biggest and first ever international debut of a traveling blockbuster exhibition, we will also have the state-of-the-art Digistar 6.5K system installed. So pretty exciting things going on. Renee, anything else to, what's up today, Renee? What's up? That's what.
Actually, we just are posting a new video today in our What's Up series. You can check out Mercury and Venus returning to our evening sky. And just this morning, 4 more astronauts launched to the International Space Station via SpaceX's Crew Dragon vehicle from Florida. So we're sharing all sorts of information about that on the Dome Planetarium Facebook page.
I watched it live. I don't want to tell you what time it was, but it was pretty exciting. So anyway, thank you to Renee Kerrigan and to all of our curatorial staff. Now I want to take just a few more minutes to talk about the Peoria Riverfront Museum in general and some of the really, really important things that we have going on. The first thing I want to say is the Every Student Initiative, which I had the privilege of starting with our team here under the leadership and generosity of Polly Barton and the Barton Family Foundation, Sally Snyder, who challenged me to do this, who now chairs our Every Student Initiative Advisory Council, Dr. Sharon Karat, the superintendent of the Peoria Public Schools, and so many others who have helped make this possible. We've expanded it to East Peoria. We have the diocesan schools now beginning to take interest. St. Phil's as a partner in this, and we plan to expand it significantly more. But here's what I want to say. For 3 years, we offered free tours for the students in our partner school districts to come on curriculum-related field trips. This was unprecedented, all K through 8th grade students. Thousands of students getting exposed to the variety of content connected to their curriculum. This year, really prohibited from doing so because of the pandemic, we launched the Student Family Fun Pass. And these are good right now. If you're Peoria Public, East Peoria, St. Phil's, you're eligible to bring that pass or just come and tell us the name of your school or show us your school, and you get in free with your entire family. So we've had hundreds of people taking advantage of that already. And I don't, is this slide up? That slide may not be up yet, but this is an example of a family who's come in to take advantage of the museum. So that's number one I wanted to mention, ESI. Number two, I mentioned it earlier, and Steve Jackson started talking about this, chair of our board, but I just want to let you all know it's incredible what is happening to the financial stability of the Peoria Riverfront Museum. Our endowment is up to $12.2 million. Marcy Schoaf, the chair of our foundation board, oversees the endowment. We appreciate everything the foundation does. The operating budget of the museum is actually running ahead of over the line. We're running a little bit above the line right now, which, if you know the history of this museum, we've had to climb and climb to raise more money to get to the right place, and we're at the right place. And this is thanks to tremendous private philanthropy. And we have taken advantage of what government grants there are, the PPP grant, for example, but it is primarily the controllable here is we, the people of Central Illinois, have stepped forward and given generously, and I know you're going to do it again. With the Plus One campaign coming up, we see getting to 400 Visionary Society members a realistic possibility, and we know that with your help, we can do that. So what I want to do, finally, is to say that the best is yet to come. With 5 fully remodeled galleries and a lobby that is remodeled, beautiful new Frank Gehry furniture that sits underneath that Luke Jerram designed 4-meter wide moon, the only one of its kind in America, and the model of Neil Armstrong given to us by the Smithsonian Institution. All three of those things, by the way, have taken place within the last year and a half at the museum. There's tremendous positive progress and growth, and people around the country are paying attention to what we together are doing in the Peoria Riverfront community. So whether you're a family member or Visionary Society member or the part of our Peoria Falcon Circle that we will roll out this fall, if you've lifetime legacy giver of $100,000 or more, left us in your estate, given a gift, a transformational gift to the collection, or set up an endowment fund, those are the 4 ways you can be eligible for the Peoria Falcon Circle as well. So much good going on. So, with all that, on behalf of our staff and our museum board and advisory councils of all sorts, let me just say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. We're going to do 2 more things. Anne Marie is going to take us out with a special announcement about something that will be a way of converting our virtual breakfast into something a little real. And then David Steve has prepared and working with us a special slideshow. And I invite you just to stay for 2 or 3 minutes after Anne Marie's finished and enjoy the people who make up the Peoria Riverfront Museum community in photographs. So please call me or any of us anytime. We thank you for everything you do. God bless, and thanks for supporting the Peoria Riverfront Museum. Anne Marie?
Thanks, John. Thank you to everybody for joining us today for our virtual breakfast with the CEO. And to make the breakfast a little less virtual, I'm excited to let you know that our friends over at CXT Roasting Company are joining together with us to offer our museum members a free cup of coffee. So you can take your museum membership card over to CXT Roasting Company at Keller Station starting today through next Friday, April 30th, and you can get a free coffee, any small coffee, any drink on their menu. So go, let them know you're with the Peoria Riverfront Museum, show your membership card, and have a cup of coffee on us.